dotted the whole coast and stuff for these luxury homes. And the peasant would just move on to another spot where he could try to stake a claim to that area. And it was slowly pushing them and pushing them back. It turned into a business in Mexico. Real estate companies will pay a small amount of money to a peasant and pay the $300 peso price for the notice in the publication so that they can resell the property to some wealthy individual owning a home in the area. Like I said, Brian Housel ran the programs for the Nature Conservancy and these biosphere reserves for 15 years. When he took the job at the Adirondack Council, I always wondered why the Adirondack Council was willing to pay a man about $140,000 a year and to take this job. And then when I saw his history of running a program such like this for the UNESCO and the Nature Conservancy, why would Brian Housel take a step down like this to work for the Adirondack Council? He was responsible for the removal of whole communities of people. He ran a system that was responsible for the peasants to take and revolt and create the Zapatista movement. It was those biosphere programs that led the way for the oil wells to get there, for the cattle, these massive cattle ranchers to start expanding, and for all these wealthy second homeowners to get there and starting their organizations up with protecting the world from all of these people that live there. Some of the programs used in Mexico and Central America are being tried here in the Adirondacks. It is no mistake that Brian Housel has been brought to the Adirondacks to run the Adirondack Council. It is just a continuation of his lifelong work, removing the peasants off the landscape so that the wealthy donors to the Nature Conservancy and the Adirondack Council can have a playground for the rich. Here in the Adirondacks, instead of calling the landowner by the local peasants' core areas, the Adirondack Park Agency calls them rural use and resource management. These are lands that the Brian Housels of the world are trying to take away from the locals so that their wealthy friends can have their playground. Adirondack Lakefront is being treated in a similar manner as the lands along the Gulf of Mexico. Soon it will only be owned by Brian's wealthy friends. A similar program of transferable development rights was also tried down in Mexico, in those areas, where they would transfer the development right and try to put everybody into real small areas so to minimize their impact, but still have a labor force to make their beds and take their garbage out and do whatever else they had to do for them. And it's the programs, the last bunch of bills which they talked about at the APA, where they talked about the 4-for-1 with the development rights in an area. That was something that was tried down there through the Biosphere Reserve programs in Mexico. The fee part about charging for APA permits. That's so similar to the plan of you can establish your right to your property if you can take and afford that 300 pesos. And where the local peasants couldn't. Here it's more of a thing of we refuse you and refuse you and refuse you, and you keep paying and paying and paying until you can no longer afford it, and then you finally have to give up. It's just a means to achieve an end is all it boils down to. One of the things which I wanted to read to you is and it's involved in another case, but it shows the analogy here so easily. Is that a different issue came up, and I'll get to that later and when I talk this afternoon. But in a letter written by the Adirondack Council to Cecil Ray at the APA, it had a statement in here. We write also to urge you to impose the maximum penalties on the most recalcitrant of resource and rural land exploiters. And it just fits so appropriately. Here I'm saying that they're looking at the core areas of being rural use and resource management. Peter brought it up showing you on his maps, and now they're doing the bridges and stuff, and those are rural use and resource management lands. And here's the Adirondack Council writing a letter to the APA and asking them to take and really put the hammers down on somebody if they're in rural use or resource management. It's a bigger crime if you're exploiting the resources there, because those are the areas they're designating as core areas. And in closing, All I have to say is that I compare Brian Housel to Adolf Hitler for what he did down there. He had his goons going down there doing this. He may parade a few that they gave jobs to and they brought up here, but there was documented deaths. There was a movement that was created because of it, and the individuals that stood up and armed themselves to fight their own government and to fight what was going on, they themselves blame the NGOs protecting biodiversity. Yeah. Thank you.